Carolina beats Clemson. Miami knocks off SMU. So the Tar Heels are the number 4 seed and get that double bye. The question now, when's the right time to get Caleb Wilson back in the mix?
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It is technically still Wednesday, March 4th, but this is our Thursday, March 5th show, 2026. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day, all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network out there. Thank you so much for making us your first listener watch. And special shout out to all the everydayers, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and of course, our great insiders as well. Hey, this episode is brought to you by Mazda, who puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, but putting in the work, that defines you. Stay tuned for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward moment. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. We are live just, 30 or so minutes after Miami polishes off SMU and Dallas. And man, I am so excited tonight because usually when my buddy Josh Marlow joins us, we've pre-recorded and we've done the whole deal. But tonight, for the first time ever, we are going live together, and I love the energy. I love what's about to happen. Marlow, it's going to be great.
It is, Shade. It's March, and I think March demands an episode like this, where Carolina – this time, 3 weeks ago, didn't feel like this was in the deck after we went to Raleigh on a Tuesday night and got dealt a pretty brutal loss. But thank God for NC State. That was their national title game. And thank goodness Carolina has responded since then as well, winning a bunch of games. And now they've secured that all-important double bye, which is what you need in the first step if you want to make a run in the ACC tournament. And it does impact some things now when we look towards Saturday, because I do wonder if this does impact whether they rush Caleb Wilson back or do they maybe wait until the ACC tournament for the star freshman to return from injury.
It is kind of hilarious that Carolina hasn't lost since the NC State game, and NC State hasn't won since the Carolina game. I'm here for it, and I think it's hilarious. Yeah, them falling apart and Clemson falling apart, both, quite frankly, has really helped Carolina be able to secure this double bye. So we're going to get to more on the ACC tournament conversation later in the show, but obviously we're coming right off of that news, and man, that's big time for the Tar Heels. Obviously, there was a scenario where Carolina could have gotten a 3 seed, but there was a whole bunch that had to go right. I'd rather have it squared away and done right now. So here's what Marlow and I are talking about. There's a whole conversation about when Caleb Wilson gets back, when's the right time, and how do you work him back in? Because even when it's a superstar, there still is a disruption to what Carolina has established in the 6 games without him. How do you figure that out? We'll get to that. And then our second topic tonight, Marlow actually brought this one up, and I love it, is this idea of what has Hubert Davis done? He has, in Marlow's phrase that he said to me earlier today, has answered the bell. To what degree is that, and what does it mean for the future? I love that conversation. Can't wait for it. And then we'll wrap the show talking about ACC tournament, talking about NCAA tournament and where things stand right now. So Marlow, let's get straight into this Caleb Wilson conversation right now. And what's interesting and where this conversation came from is actually earlier on Wednesday, I was texting with former Tar Heel David Chadwick, who's now a minister there in the North Carolina area. And he texted me this. He said, Isaac, if Caleb returns on Saturday, there will probably be a disruption of sorts of the present cohesion. It may cost them a bit, but it'll be worth it to reintegrate him into the whole. Josh Marlow, I completely agree with that take from David. Because again, anybody you work back in, whether it's a walk-on or a superstar, you got to reconfigure. So how does Carolina go about doing that well?
Well, I think you really just do it as very cliche. It's one step at a time. And I don't want to disagree with David. I'm not
please do.
To disagree with a man of God. It's not something that I want to have on my ledger. I do think it's easier for him that he's not a point guard. If this was a point guard that Carolina was having to bring back, I think there would be a little bit of rust, like what you saw maybe let's just say, for instance, when Ty Lawson got injured during that 2009 season, he looked a little rusty the first 2 games of the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, that's a good
not
word.
Playing in the ACC tournament, but he came back, got as healthy as he could be. Carolina would go on to win the national championship. I also think Caleb is just the type of player that I think his talent and his desire might overcome some of the. Look, if he plays Saturday, he's going to be rusty. It's going to look clanky. But just knowing the player that he is, the talent that he is, I think he would make the adjustments. I think the staff would make the adjustments, and I wouldn't be surprised if he were to come back and put up a really big performance that we're used to seeing him when he basically is averaging 20 and 10 as a freshman. So I think that's really going to be the thing that this staff is going to have to weigh. I think it helps that they played on Tuesday, so you've got 5 days to make this decision. We can all see the progress that he's made. If you watch him in pregame warmups, the footage that you can see where he can catch a bounce pass now. He's shooting the basketball. So he's really come a long way. And that's what we expected because we knew how he was going to attack this rehab. We knew he was going to attack it because he wants to get back on the floor. He wants to finish this season strong. And I think he's motivated to have a chance to go into that building against that team and prove what happened 3 weeks ago is not a fluke. And look, we can be 100% honest here. The chances of Carolina winning the game are significantly more important with him on the floor than with not. I still think Carolina could go in there and win because it's Duke Carolina. Crazier things have happened before. But if we're wanting to be honest about this thing, I feel a lot more confident about it if number 8 is on the floor. But now that you've got some security, knowing that you don't need to win that game to get the double bye for the week for next week, and I think Carolina values the ACC tournament more under Hubert than they did under Roy Williams. I will be interested to see if they maybe feel like they could give him another game off because now they don't play until Thursday of next week as opposed to Wednesday.
And I think you've just laid out both sides of it because Marlow, I feel like legitimately I can argue it either way. On the rest him side, it's, from Tuesday to Saturday, if you play him at Duke, that was like 4 days of rest. If Carolina didn't get the double bye and they were playing Wednesday, that would be like 7 days more. But now with the double bye, it's like an extra 8 days of rest if you don't play him in the Duke game, right? And so there's a world in which it's like, man, take all the time you can and less risk of re-injury because just that much more time of recovery. On one hand, dude, I see that in a huge way. On the other hand, there's this world of which, now hear me with what I'm saying here, because this is going to sound like completely anathema. It's going to sound blasphemous. That's the word I'm looking for. The Duke game in some way, because of what you just said, Marlow, you talked about it, because Duke's locked into the 1 seed, Carolina locked into the 4 seed. Both teams know what they go or where they're at. I don't think Carolina's NCAA tournament seeding is going to be hurt by a loss here. Now, it could be enhanced. Sure, maybe you move up to the 4 line with a win. But in some ways, yes, it's the rivalry. But in some ways, this is like a house money game, a gravy game where it's just like, whatever. And if you roll Caleb out in that moment, it's a great opportunity to let him work the rust off. And who knows what kind of game he could deliver, as you're saying. Whereas if you're trying to work him back in a one and done situation, which is going to be any game after that the rest of the way, whether it's the ACC or NCAA tournament, I would rather work him back in a regular season game if he's healthy and ready so that you can work some of those kinks out before a tournament setting where one bad night, one bad cohesion night, and you're done. Now, obviously, that's different in the ACC tournament than the finality of the NCAA tournament.
I think you bring up a really good point, too, where now, of course, Carolina could probably win the game on Saturday, and Lenardi would still punish them.
He dropped the first 4 out is what would happen.
They have more to gain with a win, but there's not going to be a demerit against them if they were to lose the game. Like if they lose the game, they finished 24-7. They're 12-6. they're 6 and 7 and quad one. Like
one,
that's where Carolina is. Whereas, okay, but you bring Caleb Wilson back, he plays in this game.
Yeah.
And then let's just presume you win your 4-5 matchup. You get Duke in the semifinals, you win that game. I do think, okay, now you have a situation where you can gain something because because there's a good chance you can add 2 quad one wins if you win 2 games in the ACC tournament next week. That could impact seeding depending on what happens in the other power conference tournament. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see what Carolina ultimately wants to do. And I just can't. My question is can Hubert Davis tell this kid no? Because this kid's been jonesing to play for 2 weeks, and I feel like if he could just run up and down the court and they could just hand him the ball and then he could do his thing, I think he'd be on there. But unfortunately, that's not the way that the game of basketball is played. So they've got all options on the table, but I do think that it does give them some pause to be cautious again, because they now know that while they want to win Saturday, they don't necessarily need to win Saturday to achieve the thing that they want to set out for, which, whenever I lay out the goals for the season, like obviously I want to win an ACC regular season title.
Yep.
But I think the most important thing is getting a double bye for the ACC tournament. And this team achieved that.
That's right.
And Schade, when he got injured, I didn't think that was possible.
No, because we did a prediction. How long ago was that? Right here on the show. And that was pre-injury. And we said, yes, they would get a double bye. And then we came back around after and we're like, I don't see it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then especially after what happened in Raleigh, like I was like, you were without your 2 best players. You were missing 39 points and 20 rebounds. But the body language, which was the most discouraging part of that.
Yeah.
And this team has come back and they've got some massive wins here to where they put themselves in this position. So I think it's going to be interesting to see ultimately what Carolina does. I'd love to have him on the floor just because I think college basketball would love to have him in that gym, in that environment, going against Cameron Boozer. But we got to wait to see ultimately what Carolina decides to do.
Yep. And again, we haven't mentioned, like we've talked about Hubert Davis making decisions and Caleb making decisions. If the training staff doesn't sign off on it, it doesn't matter what anybody else says, right? Like ultimately up to them. Also, a couple comments from the comment section that I want to bring in that I think factor into this as well. First off, this has nothing to do with it, but it's a great familial thing. A coach in training says, always a good day when I randomly see my brother on my YouTube feed. What up, Bubba? Shouts to you, brother Marlow.
Yeah, well, I told you Ashton is a big fan of you. So
let's go, Ashton.
But hey,
that's great.
I'll respond to him. Hey, buddy, thanks for joining in. But and I'm seeing your comments flow in. They're a lot nicer when I'm on your show than when I'm on my own show. So I'm either going to disband the comments whenever me and Pags are going live, or I'm just only going to read the comments when I come on with you, because whenever I come on with you, it's usually positive. There was one guy that when I was on with you the last time told me I could not criticize because I'm fat. And look, he's not wrong, but that's the only negative thing I've seen in all the times I've joined you. So it's always a blast hanging out with you, and it's cool getting to do this live show after a big night for Carolina basketball on a night where they didn't even have to take the court and win.
Oh man, it is hilarious, the comments that come on YouTube stuff. Like you can't I had laid out why the Miami game mattered in so many different formats of like how Carolina needed Miami to, and this dude was like, Locked On needs a new host because this dude sucks and he doesn't know that Carolina actually needs Miami to lose both. I don't even respond to stuff like that because it's just funny. I love it and I'm here for it, Marlow.
Yeah.
Okay, real quick. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I appreciate the way you laid the stuff out, because I wasn't very smart in high school. Math, not my strong suit. tiebreakers, not my strong suit. So I thought you made it very easy to say this is the path for Carolina to be a 4.
Good.
This is the path for Carolina to be a 3. And all the other options, people are just going to hate, man. They're going to hate,
So
and you just got to ignore the hate. I
right.
appreciate what you do because I think it makes us all much more smarter fans, and that's ultimately the jobs as podcast hosts is to entertain and inform a listening audience.
Dude, that's the goal. Time in and time out. And then just laugh at all the people that are hating and say, you know what? Thanks for tuning in because it helps me feed my children and do fun things. Okay. Just a couple other comments about our conversation. So obviously we're talking about the cohesion of Carolina coming back together whenever it is that Caleb makes his glorious return to the lineup. And I appreciate Paler Boy's point here says, Caleb has seen that cohesiveness like from the bench. He will pick his spots, take whatever the defense gives whenever he returns. And I think that's the thing is Caleb is not your typical superstar where he's like, I'm back, boys, 80 shots a game. It's like, look, things have been working well. How can I work back in to what you guys have been doing well without me? And who's been number one cheerleader on the sideline, Josh Marlow? It's been Caleb Wilson. So he's locked in, and I think that's a good thing ultimately.
Yeah, I referenced this a few weeks ago, and it's a Gino Auriemma quote where he's talking about when he recruits players that he doesn't watch how they act on the court, he watches how they act when they're on the bench.
That's right.
We learned so much about who Caleb Wilson is, the player, by not playing. That speaks volumes to his character because he's been the most engaged. He's been the biggest cheerleader. He's been there to challenge the team when the team's needed to be challenged. Schade, there was, I think it was the Pittsburgh game that I was at. He was on the court basically directing a pick and roll action that he wanted Seth Trimble to execute. Seth Trimble executed it, and he was doing the Hubert thing where and you know how Roy had the crouch. Hubert has he has like the kick where he kicks and his arm goes. Well, that's what Caleb Wilson was doing. Also, this is something you've done a really good job tracking of this season. Carolina also had stretches this year where they didn't play through their best player. So I think we could just work it back in and just have a stretch where he takes one field goal over 10 minutes and be like, well, we did that when he was on the court anyway, before he even got injured. So I feel like with a guy like him that has a savviness that you can't teach that. You can't coach that. He just feels the game. I think he would know, okay, this is what I need to attack. This is where I need to draw the double team, but make that kick out pass. If he comes back, yes, he's going to be motivated to play because he's a competitor, but I don't see him coming back to be a detriment where there are other players that when they come back, they need more than just a game to really get back in the flow of things. I think his game and the way that Carolina plays would allow him to come back rather seamlessly. Are there going to be some bumps in the road, some hiccups? Absolutely. But I don't think it's going to be this major hurdle like you see sometimes with other guys who have missed 2 to 3 weeks like Caleb Wilson has.
Yeah. And maybe the person I'm most interested to see, and I'll just say this and we'll move on, is how it affects Zayden High's minutes because he's really carved out a nice niche for himself over the course of the past 6 games. And like he has earned the right to continue getting minutes. And I think that's ultimately better if Coach Davis continues to give them to him because it allows Henry and Caleb and Jaron to play with like more wild abandon when they're in, knowing that the guy that's spelling them is going to do a nice job in their place. Speaking of Hubert Davis, one other thing quickly there, I can't remember on Tuesday which one of Luka's 6 threes it was. I think it was the one that tied the game before the ridiculous step back one. So I think it was his 4th 3 that Coach Davis like lost his ever loving mind when Luka drained that. It was, I don't know if where you were sitting in the arena, like if you like your angle to Coach Davis, but it was wild.
Oh no, I'm telling you, it's probably borderline stalkerish how much I watch Hubert when I'm at the games because it started with the very first possession because Carolina forced a missed shot, did not corral the defensive rebound, and there he was kicking, screaming, and hollering. And I remember, I think it was the one that tied it, where he really was pretty much on the court. You could see him celebrating because he was play calling. Like the game was being played in the half court. And so he pretty much put on his head, his brought out the play sheet like he did in the final 2.5 minutes against Duke, and was calling plays that he wanted them to run and execute, and they were executing them. So I love seeing that. The Zayden High thing is going to be, to me, it's going to be fascinating.
Yeah,
because we're Schade, we're not 6 weeks removed from him entering the game against Notre Dame. And the Carolina fan base groaned. Like, they were literally groaning because that was the first guy off the bench. I love his energy. I love his competitive spirit. I love the fight that he has. I like that he gives Carolina a little bit of toughness. He's when Hubert Davis wants to look someone that's going to go find a fight, Zayden High is going to go find a fight because he's going to talk. He's going to run his mouth. And he's going to, if you check one of his guys like he did, like it happened at Syracuse, he's going to be right there to check you back. Hubert actually admitted this. I think what they could do, Schade, they could be so much more aggressive with their full court pressure because you haven't seen as much of it. And Hubert said in one of his pressers, I've got 3 bigs. I can't afford it. And the other night, that was the first real time they had to navigate foul trouble. But now you get Wilson back. I don't know what you do with Stevenson. I would probably move him to the bench, keep Luka in the starting lineup. But how many teams would have those types of bigs coming off the bench that can do all the different things? His minutes are going to decrease naturally by him being back.
Absolutely.
But he should still play 8 to 10 minutes a game, in my opinion, at least early on. We get into the tournament and it's one and done. And you want to play your starters 34, 36, 38 minutes, I'm not going to complain. But he's also earned the right, I think, to be on the floor because he gives this team an edge on both ends that I think has really been one of the more bright spots that's come out of this Caleb Wilson injury.
Yeah, that's a good word. And I think Jaren has found a bit of an edge himself. We saw a lot of that on Tuesday night. And I think he's feeding off his Zayden High a little bit, right? Like, it's really good to see, and I'm here for it. You just talked some about Coach Davis, some of those play calls when he was going to Luka, 3 straight plays for that. And that's where we want to go next, is a little bit of a Coach Davis conversation. Has he answered the bell? To what level? I'm not hearing many hot seat conversations. In fact, it's funny. I feel like on Wednesday, I saw more support tweets of Hubert Davis than I've seen in a long, long time. Joshua Marlow. Let's get to it. Let's talk about it. All that coming up here in just a second. Right after I tell you about our good friends over at Mazda. This is Mazda's moving the game forward moment for those who show there's more to the score than what's on screen. For the person that moved the game forward coming out of Tuesday's win at Clemson, it's got to be Luka Bogovac. Now becomes the 4th Tar Heel to get a 20-point game this season. And I mean, it just felt like everything was going in. And one of the ones that didn't late, how about Jaren Stevenson swooping in, getting the offensive rebound? It results ultimately in a Derek Dixon 3. That dude has the clutch gene, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm here for it. These moments remind us of what it really takes to raise the bar. It's that extra work off the court, dialing in every detail, giving it that extra fire, that grit, and that I never quit mentality. Mazda puts that same passion into every single detail, giving it that extra fire, and I love it. Highlights make the reel, but what it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. All right, Josh Marlow, great to be together tonight. We're now shifting to talking about Coach Hubert Davis. And the way you phrase this to me, and I just want to read it off our text thread because I loved how you put it, is you said to me, I want to talk a few minutes on Hubert Davis answering the bell and about his job security. So Josh, I'm just going to give you the floor generally there, and then let's build off of it.
Yeah. I don't know how negative it was for you. I will be open and honest. When Carolina came back from the West Coast, they were at a crossroads.
Very much so.
And Hubert Davis, I think in his long-term outlook as Carolina's basketball coach, was at a crossroads. And you're probably scratching your head, well, they're 14-4. How could that be? Well, because this is Carolina. And 14-4, quite frankly, most years is not good enough. And losing to Cal and Stanford in the ways that Carolina lost those games, not good enough, not acceptable. And if they've gone 12-2 since. They've won a game against Duke. They got a home win over Louisville. They beat a scrappy Clemson team, and they did the last two without their best player. I could make the argument and feel justified. He has a case to be the ACC Coach of the Year. Jon Scheyer's going to get it, and Jon Scheyer deserves it for what he's done with another group of freshmen. And I'm not going to argue that. Scheyer is off to a tremendous start.
By the way, with shouts to both Jay Lucas and Ryan Odom for what they've done for Virginia and Miami. I mean, it's crazy.
These names aren't the established names that we had with Kay, Roy, Boeheim, Bennett, but these guys are going to become that. The ACC is going to be in a really good spot with this young crop of head coaches. But Schade, if I would have told you in October that Carolina would play 9 games without Seth Trimble, they'd play 6 games without Caleb Wilson, and they'd have 2 games overlapping with Henry Vassar and Caleb Wilson both out. But I told you that on March 4th, they'd be 24-6. They'd be 12-5 in the league. They'd have a double bye in the ACC tournament. I don't know if you would have believed me.
And can I interject, Marlow, really quick? Because I went and figured it out today. So that totals 15 of their 30 games, literally half of them. Do you know their record in those 15 games that they were missing at least one of those guys?
Oh, it was what hit because I had it and I lost it.
13-2.
Yeah.
In the 15 games where they were missing at least one of those guys, they lost twice. NC State and Michigan State. That's it. That's insane.
And you just, with the way that Carolina's played post-state, with the way that State's played after they won their national championship, if Carolina had their 2 best players, Carolina wins the game. And it's probably not even close considering how small State is in the front court, because we all watched Vanell and Lubin last year, unfortunately, play in Carolina blue. This has been Hubert Davis's best coaching job from start to finish. This is better than the 6-week run that he had in his first year when he took Carolina from a bubble team to an offensive rebound away from a national championship. And this is better than what he did 2 years ago, where Carolina was pretty much, after they lost to Kentucky and to UConn, they were a top 10 team in the country, and they were, and unfortunately a bad shooting night from RJ Davis, a game away from going to
Jalen Withers, but terribly decided.
One of the worst sequences in the history of the program. They're that away from going to an Elite Eight. I don't know if Carolina is going to ultimately go as far in the tournament as they did in year 1, as they did in year 3. But this has been his best coaching job. And I feel so much more comfortable and confident with him than I felt after the West Coast trip. Because I thought after the West Coast, with the body language that I was seeing, that was being reported, I didn't know how they were going to respond. And they've responded in just such a beautiful form that it's been fun to watch this team grow under him. And they've taken on the personality of their head coach. And as I've always said when I've been critical, I want to win with him.
Yeah.
Like, now don't get it twisted. After Stanford, after Cal, I had my list ready. I was ready to go give Todd Golden whatever he wanted, TJ Otzelberger. Like, I was comfortable going outside the family because at that point I was frustrated and I wanted to win. But I'll never want to win as much as I want to win with one of my guys.
Yeah.
And I look at a coach that played for the Godfather, was mentored by Roy Williams, and he's the perfect blend for what Carolina basketball wants to be, what Carolina basketball needs to be, and what Carolina basketball is expected to be. And I'm really impressed with the job he's done. I'm really impressed with the job that his assistants have done, because I think you have seen Pat Sullivan grow. I think you've seen Brad Frederick grow as that being his Steve Robinson to Roy Williams type of thing. This staff has responded in a massive way as well. And so, I mean, I just want to give him some love, man, because we've been easy and we've been quick to pile on. because we're Carolina fans and by God, we're spoiled. But he's done a fantastic job with all the adversity this team has been thrown this year. And I think he just deserves some praise because to me, this is the best coaching job he's done in his 5 years on the bench in Chapel Hill.
I completely agree. No notes, as the kids would say. And I think probably beyond the X's and O's of it, beyond the getting them to these wins, Marlow, I think probably the biggest part of this job, of the job he's done this season, is the psyche of it all. Because how easy is it to lose a locker room, or for the guys to just give up and kind of not, more or less throw in the towel when you're down your 2 leading scorers and at other moments your 3rd leading scorer for 9 games. But he has found a way somehow to keep these dudes invested and to believe that, yes, even without a Caleb Wilson, we can not only hold our water with where we were as a 6-7 seed in the NCAA tournament around the time he went out, and they've actually bettered their standing in the NCAA because of what they've been able to do in this period. And man, that is worth all the commendation in the world. And so to Coach Davis and this staff, man, I hope every Tar Heel fan out there, whether you've been critical of Coach Davis or whether you've loved him the whole time, man, now is a critical time to give him all the flowers in the world.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. And I'll tell you, for a guy that's offline, for a guy that's not on social media, and I wish I had that kind of capability. I think my mental health would be in a better spot. I think he's aware of the way that Carolina fans feel about him. Because when I was at the Kansas game and he got introduced, wasn't very loud. It was a nice round of applause, but it wasn't like not like it should be. Last night when he got introduced, there was a noticeable cheer, and there was I think he feels that, because he told you back in the summer, it was the first time that he was open and honest, and he was vulnerable about what this job demands, where he said, I know there's pressure to win. And I think you could see that the losing and the negativity, it was starting to weigh on him, and it was starting to take a toll. And look, it ate Roy Williams up. Like, Roy Williams never enjoyed the winning as much as he should have, because the losses just killed him. And I think we've learned with Hubert Davis that that's done the same way. And I think it's why this team has had a lot of fun, because they've had some shade. They beat Kansas, they beat Duke, they beat Kentucky, they beat Virginia, they beat Louisville. Like, look at all the wins that they had.
It's impressive.
And not many teams can say that. And I think what he likes about them too is, I don't think they're being talked about the way that a Carolina team that's 24-6
I agree.
should be talked about as we go into March. Yes. And so I hope this committee underseeds them. And I hope this committee doesn't do it, because they should be, to me, they're a 4 seed. Like, with all the wins, they're 9 and 6 in the first 2 quadrants. I think they're a 4 seed. They're probably going to come in at a 5, but you know what? This group's just going to, they're going to put on their hard hat, pick up their lunch pail, and they're going to work. And that's a reflection of the head coach and the culture that he has established as the guy that's leading this program.
Well, and I think that's a great segue to where we want to go next, because we want to talk about where the ACC tournament seeding sits, because there's still a lot to be figured out Saturday, but the top 4 teams are set. And then we want to talk more about Carolina's NCAA tournament seeding, because a lot of the resume-based metrics would have Carolina higher. A lot of the predictive metrics would have Carolina lower. Where is it going to ultimately settle? We'll get to that and more to wrap the show coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Game Time, the biggest stretch of the college basketball season is almost here. Buzzer beaters, bracket busters, and those unforgettable moments that everyone's talking about the next day. Being there live for something like that, man, that is bucket list stuff. The hard part is actually getting tickets to it, though. Long queues, prices jumping up on you at checkout. There's no time for that. But what I do have time for is Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans with constant innovation. It's incredibly simple to use. The Game Time guarantee means 100% legitimate tickets delivered on time at the best price. And here's the best part, man. Fees are included, so what you see is actually what you pay, period. No stress, no guesswork, just a smooth experience from start to finish. That's exactly what you want during this best part of the college basketball season. Marlow, I looked at tickets on Game Time for Carolina at Duke on Saturday. I would love for you to just wager a guess as the lowest price ticket on the Game Time app for Saturday night. And I'll tell you this, it's gone down since last time I looked.
The lowest, okay.
Like get in the door price.
$978.
You are very close, except for in the thousands column. $1,954 is the cheapest ticket right now.
Okay.
So, and that's down. It was over 2,000 last time I looked. Crazy stuff. But you guys, you know how Game Time says it. Keep watching these tickets. The closer it gets to tip off, you're going to want to be there. There's also already great ticket prices available for the ACC tournament next week, single sessions or the whole thing. Go check that out now. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Locked On for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. This episode's also brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Welcome to the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft. We're looking at every aspect of the draft to let you know which tasty flavors are the best and which just might be sleepers. The board is set, the flavors are ready, and only one is going to take home the top spot. For me, that is strawberry banana. Maybe that sounds kind of basic, but I've always loved like that a milkshake of that flavor or yogurt or a smoothie or something. And so the fact that 5 Hour Energy has that as well, I'm all in. But y'all know me, this boy from Georgia, and so I love a good peach flavored anything. I like the tropical stuff because my family goes down there. I love a good mango. So give me that tropical mango for my sleeper pick. I love that opportunity as well. So you need to check it out too. Go look, find your new favorite flavor of 5 Hour Energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or right on over at Amazon. 5 Hour Energy. Check it out today. All right, Marlo, let's wrap our conversation talking a little bit about the ACC tournament first, because a lot of people erroneously, we're going to use the word erroneously, thought that Carolina clinched a 4 seed by winning last night against Clemson. Heck, I even saw some people try to claim that Carolina got the 4 seed because NC State lost on Monday night, and none of that is factually true. But all of it's to use a Joey Tribbiani phrase, it's a moot point now, because thanks to Miami going and beating SMU in Dallas on Wednesday evening, North Carolina now has clinched the 4 seed. Also, Miami, by that win, clinched the 3 seed. Last night, Virginia clinched the 2 with their 5-point win over Wake at home, and Duke has clinched the 1 seed and the outright regular season ACC tournament title. Now, there are multiple other seeds behind all of that, Marlow, to be still decided, but you said it earlier, man. Like, I would love for a regular season championship, but at least getting to that double bye is great. I know everybody's eyeballs are going to be focused on a potential third matchup with Duke on Friday night, but you got to win a game on Thursday to get there. How critically important do you think is that game, that Thursday quarterfinal game, for Carolina's NCAA tournament seeding?
Yeah, I mean, I think it ultimately depends on what happens Saturday. Carolina wins Saturday. If they were to lose in their first round matchup, I don't think it would hurt them. But if you were to lose Saturday, and then let's say you go out and you lose your first game in the ACC tournament, now you're opening the door to drop a seed line and maybe lose some of the momentum that you have built to this point in the year. The talk will be with Carolina being the 4. Could we get the rubber match in Charlotte? I, as someone that'll be there as a credentialed member of the media, would love to see that again. But the first thing I want State on a neutral court, with my team healthy. And we can.
So sad that I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen either.
Because we'll be on unless in the championship, maybe they'll knock off Duke.
So, but. Yeah, I mean, like, for me, like, I look at it as you don't want to be one and done in the ACC tournament. You want to I think it's important, especially now where Carolina is getting away from the stuff in in November where they're playing in these big tournaments. Like Hubert Davis is straying away from that. Yeah. I want them to have that feeling of what it's like to play a game and then turn around and get ready to play again. Yeah. What it's like to play on a neutral court. What it's like to see in a different environment. So I think if Carolina wins Saturday, they have some room for error. But if you were to lose Saturday, then you lose in that 4-5 game, assuming that it's the 5 that were to advance, you're opening up the door for the committee to punish you, and to maybe drop you a seed line. And I don't think you'd want that to happen. So you don't want to get caught looking ahead, because that's going to be the whole talk of the tournament is, can we get Duke Carolina? But you can't let that be the focus. So I'd like to see Carolina, no matter who ends up being that 5 seed, that's who they play. They treat that game like they treated a whole bunch of other games. You get a neutral court win, because depending on who it is, it could be another quad 1 win that you're adding to your resume. Yeah. And then maybe you're either maintaining your seed line, but if you win that game and then you maybe beat Duke in the semifinal, well, guess what? Now you've added 2 quad 1 wins. You're improving your resume going into Selection Sunday. That could be a really key as well, because that could be the difference between Carolina playing in Greenville or maybe somewhere like Tampa the first weekend of the tournament.
Yeah, it's a good point. And I haven't done all the tiebreakers of the teams right behind us, but the 3 teams that could be the 5 seed are Clemson, who's a game up on Louisville and NC State right now. But depending on how things play out Saturday, Clemson, Louisville, or NC State. Right now in the net, stand by, I'll tell you where each of those teams are at. Louisville's 15th, NC State's 30, Clemson's 35. So on a neutral, so folks, for everyone, top 50 on neutral is quad 1. So any of those 3 teams would be a quad 1 game in the quarterfinal, obviously assuming there's not an upset from whomever came out of the game the day before. But yeah, I mean, it could very well be a playing Clemson twice within a 3-game span, and then playing Duke twice. So it could be Clemson, Duke, Clemson, Duke is the way it could honestly go. But the good news is that, Clemson or whomever it is would have already had to play a game. And I know people talk about maybe that's advantageous sometimes, whatever, fine. Carolina is going to face a team that's played at least 1 game. As you said, a good opportunity to get a quad 1. And here's the weird thing, Josh, about getting punished by the committee. I'm all for, like, you don't make assumptions of the bracket of who's going to move on and who, like, I think it's easy to say, you don't want to be a 4 seed because then you got to play a 1, whatever. That said, though, this crop of 1 seeds, man, they're a cut above in a lot of ways. And falling to a 6 seed might not be the worst thing in the world, because then you would get to avoid the 1 seed until the Elite 8 instead of the Sweet 16. Mm. Now, obviously, that also means, though, you would have to play a 3 seed in the second round, and that's dangerous itself. So it's like you just go win basketball games, let the committee put you where they do, and then roll the ball out and let's freaking do it,
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. We're looking at a scenario, Shade, where we get back-to-back tournaments where 1 seeds dominate the Final Four. After it only happened once previously in 2008 before last year. And look, the committee, the dirty secret about the selection process is, and it's no longer as much as a secret as it used to be, the bracket's pretty much built by Thursday and Friday. Like, for the most part, what they're trying to figure out by Friday is who are they sending where. Like, for the most part, the seeds and all of that are pretty much determined. They do leave some wiggle room if you have a team that maybe
for Saturday, and so yeah, exactly.
Yes, but I think that's the thing for Carolina is, I didn't think maybe the last time I talked to you that Greenville was on the table for them, but with the strong close to the regular season, I do think that Carolina could be playing, maybe not for NCAA tournament seeding, but they could be playing for where they're going to spend their first weekend. And look, I don't know if you read it in the stuff, but when Carolina won the title in 2017, where they started that region? They started in Greenville.
Yeah, and you know what else happened in that region? The South Carolina Gamecocks knocked off Duke in the second round, a 7-2, and I loved it.
So I think that's something that could be really important is Carolina and Greenville, even if they are a 6 seed and they would have to maybe upset a 3 seed. Well, depending on who that 3 is, they could be more Carolina fans in the building than that 3 seed. And so that's something that really does play a factor. for Carolina, where as I mentioned, because they maybe cannot improve their seeding, but they could maybe improve where their location is. And I want them to be in Greenville because selfishly that means I get to go. If they get to go to there in Tampa, I ain't going. If the Heels are in Greenville, I'm going to be there watching my team play in the NCAA tournament. So I'd like to see that happen as well.
Yeah. Just for everyone's knowledge, the 8 first and second round sites, are Buffalo, New York, Greenville, as we've been talking about, Oklahoma City, which would be great for me. I'd love it. Portland, Oregon, Tampa, Florida, Philly, San Diego, and St. Louis, which would also be good for me. Oh, by the way. So, but man, ideally, yes, they would go to Greenville. And for those who might be like, how would Carolina get to Greenville? They're going to be like a 4 or 5 or 6 seed. Well, sometimes like it's not just the 1 seeds, right? There's some others that the top 4 seeds are protected in some of those ways. And so if Carolina could get there, they could be in shape to do it. So that's a great point there, Marlow. Would love for that to be a little bit of the path. And in case anybody's wondering, the South Regional, so Sweet 16 Elite 8 will be in Houston. West Regional will be in San Jose. Midwest Regional in Chicago, and the East Regional in the nation's capital in the same building that Duke and Michigan played in. So that's something very interesting to keep your eyes on there. Josh Marlow, anything else you want to say before we get out of here with this postseason conversation?
I guess I'll just maybe close with this. Credit to all the fans that tuned in to the stream. This was a lot of fun. And to all the fans that were in attendance throughout the home games. I got a chance to be at 13, 14 of the home games for Carolina this year. Great environment. I thought they were really, you could tell that when it was a big game, there was a big crowd. And so that was really cool to be a part of. And it was really good having the senior speeches back.
Man, yeah.
I thought that was a nice touch. I thought it was cool that the players advocated for that. And I loved hearing Seth Trimble use that platform to make it known that he hopes that the Dean E. Smith Center is the future home of this basketball program for the next 25, 30 years, because I don't know how much you follow this, Schade. It's a big thing that we follow on the Four Corners podcast. This is going to be a decisive topic, and this is one that could really, really send shockwaves through the Carolina fan base. But it was just really fun being at the arena this year and with great listeners like you that you have here on the Locked On Network. I thank you for having me on tonight. I have a chance to talk to these guys because they are what make Carolina basketball special, because it does feel like a family. It does feel like a community. I can feel it on the pod, and I felt it in the arena, whether I was there as a fan or there as a media member.
Yeah. And quite literally family on Tuesday night, man. One of my favorite scenes is Coach Davis sitting there in front of the scorer's table, just with his arm around sweet Miss Leslie, just watching a lot. Like, dude, as a father, I don't mind just being very I was bawling, dude. Like, watch it, and at halftime, watching RJ's dad take off his glasses and wipe it. I was done, man. I was.
Well, it's why, like, I don't want to do this any other way. Like, this is how I want my program to be ran by Carolina guys, and I want to see those moments like Trimble. Was it Marcus Page's speech? No, but it was.
Yeah.
But it was. I mean, he did give that moment. I'm seeing my head coach there with his wife, watching his son stand on the court where he played 30 years ago, and he played at a high level. I don't ever want to lose that. That's why I'm so glad that Hubert has turned this thing around, because winning with Carolina guys, there's nothing like it. So, and hopefully we're doing that for the next 15, 20 years.
Ooh, I'm here for it. A building that, oh, by the way, this year saw 18 wins, a program record, and 0 losses for the 6th time in Smith Center history. I've been saying it a lot. I'll remind us all again. The previous 5 times resulted in an Elite 8, a national championship, and another national championship, and another Elite 8, and another national championship. So I don't know how much you believe in omens, but I'm here for an Elite 8 or a national championship run. Let's make it happen. All right, gang. Heck yeah. Onward and upward. Been so great to be together tonight. Thank you all for tuning in here with us. As a reminder, this actually, even though it's Wednesday night when we're recording live, this is the Thursday show for Locked On Tar Heels. A couple things coming up tomorrow on Friday. there will be a crossover with Locked On Blue Devils host JJ Jackson, where we're getting ready for the game. And then our regular Friday show, where I will be getting us ready. We'll do all the Carolina side of things, our Four Corners preview. We'll get to the weekend whip around with all the other sports going on for Carolina athletics as well. We got to talk about the women's ACC tournament. They start play on Friday. So much going on. It's great stuff. Marlow, just a second ago, mentioned his own Four Corners podcast, man. You need to go check it out, as well as the Heel Tough blog that he and Anthony Pagnotta do together, man. It is phenomenal stuff. Marlow talked about being informed and educated earlier by shows like mine. Dude, I feel the exact same about theirs. I walk away a smarter basketball and football fan and Carolina general knowledger. And so I'm so grateful for the work my brothers do over there. Check it out. By the way, subscribe to our show on YouTube and all the audio podcast platforms as well. It really helps us continue to grow things and move it forward. If you haven't checked out our Locked On Tar Heels Discord, that link's in the show notes, as is the link for the Everydayers Club. Would love to have you join any of that. You guys know the drill. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. Can't wait to be back to talk again tomorrow. But until then, peace.